Now, before we go for a lunch break, we have one more exciting item in the agenda, which is a plenary talk by Professor Dr. Zoraini Wati Abbas from University Science Malaysia. Her talk is entitled Digital Transformation and the Preparation of Change in Teaching and Learning. For this session, I would like to again invite Mr. Hasnain to moderate the session. Thank you.
Yep.
Welcome back, Prof, to IMU. And it's nice to see you again, virtually, although. Okay, it's my pleasure to be a moderator for this wonderful session entitled for Digital Transformation and Preparation to Change in Teaching and Learning, how we prepare ourselves. And first time I heard Prof in 2003 in University Malaysia, and she was at that time was also keynote, and she was explaining how Open University used SMS to cover mobile learning. That was way back. Yeah. So nice to hear. And now I think she's having vast experience. And let me briefly explain briefly. Okay, you just Google her name and you will get all the details. So Prof has been an educator most of her life. At present, she is the Dean of School of Distance Education at University Science Malaysia, USM Penang. She was previously the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and Educational Technology for 3 years at Wawasan Open University in Penang also. She was at Sapurna University in Jakarta, Indonesia, where she was the founding director of the Center for Learning, Teaching and Curriculum Development, as well as the acting vice rector for academic and student affairs. Prof. Zoraini is Malaysia's e-learning pioneer and advocate for online learning. She was professor at Open University, OUM, where she led the Center for Tutor Management and Development, Institute of Quality Research and Innovation, and the Center for Instructional Design and Technology at OUM. She designed and achieved success with the mobile learning project at OUM and trained few hundred tutors and self-instructional material, or SIM, or module writers for OUM. So over to you, Prof. And we will have around 1 hour. Feel free, participants, to post your questions in the chat as Prof will be sharing her experience. Yeah, please, Prof.
Okay, thank you, Hasnain. It's good to be back at IMU, although it's virtual. And yes, I left IMU in 2004. So that's 7 years, 7 years ago. And today, well, thanks for having me share my thoughts, my experience. Today, what I'm going to do is talk about digital transformation and the preparation of change in teaching and learning. Yeah, we can do so many things, but how do we prepare for changes? So, okay, let me start. Okay, first of all, Hasnain has done quite a number of, well, he has mentioned quite a number of things about me, but maybe one of the things that I want to share is the fact that I've been with 6 universities. And one of the common things that I saw or that I observed is that everywhere it's about the same. You know, when we come to when we talk about changes, especially about instructional technology or about changes in teaching and learning, we have faculty members at various level of readiness and various interests, to change. But what I'm noting also is that the number of people who refuse to change are getting smaller. I mean, not as many as when digital technologies or when internet first came. At that time there were a lot more resistance and less so now. So that's the good news that I can share with you after having been in like 6 different universities. All right, I'm basically an educator. I am also and instructional technologies. And instructional technologies, a good one usually follows the trend. So it's been e-learning, online learning, open and distance learning, yeah, in the last 1 or 2 decades. Okay, this is what I'm going to go through. Part 1 on digital transformation, Part 2 on changes in teaching and learning, and Part 3 on preparation of change. I noticed that there are quite a number of papers who have and will continue to talk about what they do in teaching and learning. So I won't repeat that. What I'm going to do is give you a more macro view, maybe, yeah, things to trigger our thought, yeah, our thinking, and perhaps the next steps, yeah, in how to get things moving or going, especially if you are a leader in the institution and your job is to make some changes, yeah, especially to get the changes implemented by your lecturers, yeah, or academic staff. All right, digital transformation. I think I'm not sure who else exactly are online now, but I think I'm one of the few who have used slate boards. And of course, nowadays it's about tablets, yeah. Slate boards, I used it when I was young. And that was when the, usually this was at that time, the religious classes. And the religious teacher would write something on the slate board, and the students, his students, will all write exactly what he wrote, yeah? And that's how we learn. And I thought that was fun because it was something different, not writing in exercise books, but writing on the slate board. And today, the tablet, yeah, or the iPad, yeah, that's the first one that came out, yeah, in terms of tablets way back in, I think, was it 2010? And the slate board and the iPad are about the same size, but you can do a lot more things with a tablet. It is everything. I mean, you can do banking, you can do I mean, what I mean is online banking. You can read books, you can view Netflix films and series and so on. The tablet is only one thing. You can just take that pencil and write and then erase. That's it. But the tablet is a lot more. Yeah? It's email, it's video, it's communication. It's also e-learning, online learning, remote learning, and everything else. But anyway, just to appreciate, yeah, where we are, we've gone on from slate boards to blackboards, yeah, in the classroom, radio, films, film strips, educational television, OHP, slides, videos, video discs, CD-ROMs. I mean, there's a whole lot of items, yeah. And in terms of pedagogy, or in terms of approaches, we've gone from didactic learning. I mean, I remember it's always didactic learning for me all the way to the university. And then now we've got blended learning, remote teaching during the COVID times, yeah, during lockdown, and then the online learning, which is also something sometimes referred to as remote teaching. Yeah, sometimes they are used interchangeably. And then today, quite a number of institutions are also now thinking about ODL, or open and distance learning. So that's where we've been. And some of the buzzwords today, main ones, I think, yeah, e-learning, remote lectures, online learning, ODL. This is the channels, yeah, the way we teach today. Yeah? I'm not talking about the methodology. It's just the channels. Yeah. Okay. And one of the gurus, or one of the more prominent online educators or digital educators, is Tony Bates. Tony Bates was with Athabasca University, and one of the books that he wrote, and this is one of the more recent ones, is Teaching in a Digital Age. Guidelines for designing, teaching, and learning. So if you need some ideas, you need some references, you could take this book, because I'm recommending it because it's free. Yeah, it's available online and you can get it for free. And if you were to, I mean, this was the website. This is what he says. Teaching in higher education in 2015 and beyond, and this was like 6 years ago. Yeah, he says that it requires a new approach because of changes in the economy and changes in technology. He thinks that faculty and instructors are facing questions, yeah, all the time, such as, how do I effectively teach? an increasingly diverse student population. How do I engage and support my students as class sizes increase? How do I use multimedia and other resources to build a high quality course? Yeah, and a host of other things. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm being blocked by something. I just have to move something. All right. Okay. All right. Next slide. Okay. I believe that when we ask questions, we get answers. So some of the questions that we could be asking ourselves: how do I decide whether my courses should be campus-based, blended, or fully online? What strategies work best when teaching in a technology-rich environment like we are facing with today? Yeah? What methods of teaching are most effective for blended and online classes? How do I make choices among all the available media, whether it's text, audio, video, computer, or social media, in order to benefit my students and my subject, and so on? I mean, you can read the last two questions, but basically these are the typical questions that a good educator will ask. Yeah. And if we talk about digital transformation, sometimes it's not that difficult to evolve. For example, somebody senior, yeah, in age can adapt to reading the news, for example, or reading, getting the latest information, yeah, from a tablet. Yeah, in this case, we know it's an iPad because of the cover. But how, if in education, do we succeed? Okay, now I'm going to propose Omar. Omar is to me a model, or a what you call this, a matrix, a matrix with the factors for success, and there are 4. Number 1 is openness. Each of us, an educator in the 21st centuries, should have this openness, yeah, within us. Open in receiving new knowledge about teaching and learning. Open in accepting the fact that students can come in a variety of ways. Yeah, we've got APEL A, APEL C, APEL Q, and I'm sure there are other ways that you are thinking of. And there are many ways of delivering education today. I mean, we have the traditional way where the students are in the classroom right in front of us, yeah, physically together in the same space. There are MOOCs that they can take and perhaps get credit transfer from our institution, yeah, to replace a course that they would have to take, but the MOOC replaces it. There are micro-credentials now, and there are many ways of getting education delivered to them. It's not just the way that we used to do, yeah? And then the mindset. Each educator, I believe, should have a mindset that is accepting, being able to accept change, yeah? Being able to make a person explore new things, yeah, and open mindset, if I may say so. Previously, it's openness toward the variety of ways. Now the mindset is our own self. How can we adapt? How can we adopt some of the new things? What is it that we have? How is it that we have to think now to be able to be an effective educator? We cannot stay the same. All right, that's mindset. The other thing is to be adaptive. Yes, we have to continually adapt ourselves to the environment. So many technologies are out there now. Learning technologies, there's so many to choose from. And I think you will hear some of these, from some of the educators who will share what they've done and what students like, what they don't like perhaps, and what works and what don't, yeah? So being adaptive. And then the other one is, of course, when we have all these 3, then of course the level of readiness is quite high among us, yeah? Okay, so let me go on. Okay, next slide. I will mention this again. I'm just going to show you very quickly something that I will discuss again towards the end. It's about enhancing the learning ecosystem. We are where we are now, but there are some changes that we need to make, some things to introduce. I will talk more about this perhaps because I want to take you through some of the other things, and just to bring everybody on the same page, so that when I introduce that enhancement earlier, we will be able to understand why. Yeah. Now there are changes in teaching and learning. I'm not going to be very, very specific as to what can be done or what can we use to teach a course. But let us remember this. Today, all lecturers, all of us should be facilitators of learning. It's not us knowing everything. It's not the lecturer being the sage on the stage. It's not us controlling everything. Yeah, everything that the students should know, or that the students, or the way the students should learn. We should be facilitators of learning. And facilitators, I mean, yeah, you know, the students may have devices of their own. The students may not have devices of their own, or the students may have good internet. The students may not have internet. So what do we do to facilitate the learning, no matter what situation the students are in? What do we do as facilitators to make sure that the students that the students are able to get what we need them to learn? Yeah. So how do we facilitate that? So that is what it's all about. And the first time I heard about the word facilitator, yeah, instead of teacher, was, I think, in 1975. 1975, I got a scholarship to become, what you call this, to go to the US, come back as a teacher. And we were told before we left, yeah, a group of us, we were told, when you come back, you'll be facilitators, not teachers. And that was the first time I heard about it. But when I came back, I think most of the time people were still teaching instead of facilitating the learning. And today we're still here about changing from being lecturer to facilitator. So, you know, I mean, it takes time to change, and 75 to 2001, that's what, 25, 46 years already. Yeah. And when we are still grappling with this fact of, you know, whether we are lecturers or whether we're facilitators. Anyway, as facilitators, our main role is to produce the learning among our students, to produce in whatever way, in however the method, you know, what is the most effective way? It could be just a blackboard. It could be a flip chart, but it could also be, you know, like, let's say, trying to produce deeper learning. And if that could be done through forums, that's what we do. So that's what it is, yeah, depending on your course learning outcomes. And basically producing the learning, I'm just going to mention 4 things here. We need to show evidence these days, right? MQA will ask, okay, what's the evidence that the students have achieved your course learning outcomes? So we need the evidence-based performance. And these days it's about outcome-based education. The outcomes must be there. The evidence will indicate, yeah, the outcome. And then it's about constructive alignment. Constructive alignment is, of course, the principles of OBE, being able to align between the course learning outcome and the learning activity and the learning assessment. And learning assessment, if we talk about producing the learning, the best, I think, the best choice for now, not to say the most perfect, but the best choice where possible, yeah, depending again on the learning outcome, is authentic task or alternative assessment. Okay, I won't go into it. I'm just going to give you very, very macro view of things. Because even authentic assessment, you know, you can give me 2 hours and I can talk about it. So this is not the time, but I'm just giving you a very quick overview of things in general. Okay, I come from the field that is called instructional technology. It's about instructional design. You may have heard the term, yeah, instructional design or learning design. You may have heard of the term learning architect. Yeah, that's what a good instructional designer can become. Yeah, a learning architect. In instructional technology, one of the courses we take is about learning theories. Another course is about instructional design models. And based on all this, what is important is we understand what learner readiness is. If we understand that, that means there are times when we should be providing an onboarding experience, or sometimes, what is referred to as orientation in the old days, but today I would prefer to call it an onboarding experience, so that they're used to how, or they will understand how we will deliver, or how they will learn, in our system. And then there's the fact that, learner friendly. What is learner friendly? Anything that we do for them should be learner friendly or learning centric, or learner centered. That explains, learner friendliness. So it could be in terms of the environment, in terms of the resources, in terms of our support, and so on. Then we talk about learner motivation. Now, of course, not everybody has the same level of motivation, especially if we are doing online learning or remote teaching. So what is learner motivation? How can we best make a student more interested, in what we are teaching? Those are the things, that we should be good about. And then learner assessment. Okay, how do we assess learner? There's so many ways. Which one do we use? Which one is the best one for the course learning outcome? Constructive alignment, I mentioned it to you. Then, of course, the learning effectiveness. Instructional technology is basically about that. So I think somebody early, the moderator earlier was mentioning we need to be able to partner. So I think what one possibility is to be able to partner with an instructional technologist, so that the instructional technologist can advise. So I think Hasnain, you're playing that role, at IMU. Okay, another important element, learning experience. With learning experience, we run the risk of, and I've seen this at times, we run the risk of identifying the technology to use, and then determine how that technology can be used. Actually, it should be the other way. We should identify how is it that we want to teach, and then see if technology can support, or if technology can help us do that better. So it should be that way. So that it is a basic of all things in learning and teaching. Pedagogy is a basic. It is a fundamental. The technology is a tool. It's not the end and all. Okay. Now, pedagogy is about appropriate learning and teaching approaches. I mean, when we talk about pedagogy, we identify the right one. So it's about learning and teaching approach. And we have heard before about flipped learning, self-learning, problem-based learning, project-based learning, technology-based learning. It doesn't stop there. There are more and more. But these are the various learning and teaching approaches that we probably could consider as to which one is a better one. And when we talk about technologies, we adopt or adapt, or sometimes we don't need to use it. For simple things. Why go into technologies? I mean, when you can just, let's say, talk to your student about it without needing an audiovisual aid, as what we called before, or without needing technology. You can be as effective if you're just a good communicator, and if you can structure your thought, and if you can communicate what it is that the students are to learn. Sometimes you don't need the technology, just a classroom, just table and chair. That's all. But these days, of course, if we are remote, then you do need the technologies, and that's where we can think about adopting or adapting. Okay, apart from technologies, I mentioned earlier about motivation, but there's also something called student engagement. Student engagement and motivation are two essential items that we need to understand. And when we go for some of the models, we can adopt the models or adapt the models. And when we implement, it's about designing the delivery, or designing our teaching and learning. And after that, of course, implement the design, and then we monitor the student progress, usually from the perspective of the student, how they're managing, with our design and implementation. And then when we evaluate, we want to fine tune the whole learning experience, so that in the next opportunity, we do better, we become more effective. So basically that. Student engagement. If we were to Google the term student engagement, it is not a new term, and sometimes we use it layman way. But if you were to look for articles, information, research-based publications. It brings us 921 million results. Let me just mention to you, I want to give a model actually after this, but if you look at some of these things, I mean, they've existed for a long time. You can see there 2010, 10 proposals, how to improve student engagement. And you can get into a thesis, just on student engagement alone. Just want to give you the overall picture, but this is one model. This model is about having the cognitive, affective, behavioral, and academic components. There's that observable engagement, which is academic and behavioral. The academic is how fast they submit, how timely they submit their assignments, how well they complete their credits, they complete homeworks, they engage in class activities. So that's the academic component. Behavioral, again, you can also observe. That means their attendance, whether they've been academically suspended, or whether they're participating in school activities, when you are not with them, there are many other activities. And then being on time, for class, submitting assignments, coming on time for exams, those are the behaviors that we can observe. Internal engagement, we talk about cognitive and affective. Cognitive is about their feeling of the relevance of schoolwork, their perception whether what we're providing to them is in meeting their personal goals and giving them the autonomy to proceed in teaching and learning, what they feel about the value of learning that we're providing to them, or that the institution is providing to them, and of course what it means to succeed in school. Effective is about identification with the tool. That's more psychological, what you feel about school, what you feel about being able to belong to the community on campus, or being able to belong in a group of friends, and basically the connectedness with the school. All right, let me proceed. Okay, motivation. I'm taking one model called ARCS, the ARCS model. It is a motivational model, and if you were to Google it, 26.2 million results. ARCS model has existed since the 80s. Still relevant, more than 40 years, still relevant. And ARCS model is by Keller. I'll show you his picture in a while. But ARCS stands for attention, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction. When we have all this, when we are able to design learning in such a way that all these 4 elements are covered, we will find that we are able to provide better motivation to the students. All right, so this is John Keller, and he has written, one of the later books that he has written is Motivational Design for Learning and Performance, the ARCS model approach. So if you're keen on applying ARCS and getting good with ARCS, get this book and have a read. There is a poster on the ARCS model of motivation, the attention, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction. So this is what is described for each one of them. Being able to grab the students' attention, how we do it, I mean, there are several ways. Again, ARCS, it can be another 2-3 hours just on ARCS alone to get a quick overview. But within a few seconds, this is what it is. Just a start, in terms of knowledge. And if you want to know more, there's a complete website dedicated to ARCS by John Keller himself. So grab student attention, then demonstrate relevance. So if we teach, we must make it relevant. So giving relevant examples, making it relevant. So that's why we are saying sometimes, future ready curriculum. So it has to be relevant. Enhancing student confidence. So let's say they're learning something new from us. Did we instill confidence in them that they are able to grasp whatever we gave them? So that means feedback is important. That's an example. We need to give a lot of examples so that they reach a point where they can give their own examples. So then they become confident. And the other one is student satisfaction. Student satisfaction usually through assessments. If they what you call this? If they are able to answer most of the questions, if they are able to do the assignments, complete them on time, then you will feel that. I mean, they will feel that they have achieved what they needed to know, and they will become satisfied. So the 4 things, if available, will continue to motivate the students, to go on in the subject, or to go on into going to the next level of knowledge and so on. Okay, so this is just a summary of things. I think this is being recorded, right? So if it's recorded, then I think you can go back to the presentation to start, understanding a bit more. And of course, you can go to the various resources online to even get good at it. Okay, another model I would like to introduce is the COI model. This is especially good for forums, and I've applied this model when I facilitate forums, and it's a good one. Yeah. Again, when you Google COI model, you get about 55.6 million results. And if you see there's so many versions in terms of the diagram itself, in terms of the model, how it's been diagrammed. And this is also more than 20 years old, so you can just Google and find out more about what the COI model is all about. And basically, there is a social presence, cognitive presence, teaching presence. All these 3 will contribute to learning. Okay, so that's all you need to know for now. But I believe applying the COI model will lead to deeper learning. Okay. Okay, next. Okay, when we at our own institution and when we start teaching, there are dots we have to connect, because these days we're using a lot of, a variety of learning resources. We are also, for example, in an ODL institution, this is my model for an ODL institution actually. So we have modules, we have tutorials, we have virtual lab sessions, especially during COVID, and we have our learning management system. Each of these have a role or main roles to play, but we need to connect the dots between them. We cannot have them used in silos by the students. We have to help provide a holistic learning experience for the student. So if there are 3 main learning delivery methods or learning support methods, then the dots need to be connected. So it's not like each of this is standing alone by themselves, but there is a reason how this is connected to this, how these sessions are connected to this, and so on. So each of the 3 will contribute to the achievement of the course learning outcomes. Okay, so again, this is another session by itself. I won't go into details, but just to share, all this, as Hasnain said, experience, that I have gotten, over the years, and basically is to achieve student engagement and creating a well-blended learning environment with self-instruction materials, if it's in the case of open and distance learning universities. Okay, so typically we talk about high tech, but it must be high touch. And we also talk about staff, that means the academic as well as administrative staff, to be skilled and competent when supporting students. So there are some when academic staff alone are involved, but there are, in most cases, both academic and administrative staff are involved in any of these types of support. Okay. Now today, I think we cannot deny the fact that our students and even ourselves, we are viewing a lot of YouTube videos, and many of us, instead of Astro, it used to be Astro, but now we talk about Netflix, iFlix, and other what you call this, platforms or TV channels or cinema channels. You know, it used to be cable TV, but I think nowadays some of us have stopped watching TVs. We are only using our phones, and our phones can become an entertainment device or a teaching and learning device. Yeah, from our perspective, teaching; from the student's perspective, learning. So now in this kind of Netflix age, of YouTube age, definitely, and of course, all kinds of other kinds of learning, there is a need to be prepared for change, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So this one I have explained, just to remind you again. Yeah, I have explained this. If we can have Omar in place, those are the ones that will determine how successful the institution will be, or how successful an individual educator will be. Okay, I mentioned earlier about enhancing the learning ecosystem. So we talk about readiness of the institutional level. We talk about let me see now. We talk about ensuring competencies or development of competencies. We could have new talents. We could get into learning analytics. And if it's important in the private sector, we talk about business analytics. We could talk about futures lab if we want to continue to stay relevant, and then explore, find out, what are the new technologies out there, yeah, that can match our, or that can support the pedagogies that we want to employ. We could even, especially in the ODL institutions, probably necessary to have a multimedia production studio if necessary. Sometimes our device can also be our lab, in terms of producing our own videos and so on. So it depends on how much support we need to give, but this is something that we can think of as well. It may not be a big team. It could be just, a small team of 2-3 people, yeah, or even just one person if the need is not that much. We have to also think about teaching future-ready courses. In other words, whether students, how students will be supported, for a future job. How do we do it? So it's not necessarily about giving content, but it's about leading them to being in charge of their own learning and teaching. So we give some, but they also know how to manage in terms of getting more information themselves. Yeah. So that's where, the concept of lifelong learning comes in. So if they are lifelong learning, they will continue to learn on their own. Yeah. Go beyond what you've taught them. And if they're out there, once they finish the degree, they know what to do in terms of picking up new knowledge and so on. They may not even need to be trained by the organization. They can do it on their own. We have MOOCs, we have all kinds of other ways, yeah, to learn, yeah, if we wanted to. And what is good is when we do online learning, we should have this data and learning analytics, yeah. So we've got the competencies here. So they've prepared the platform, let's say, for it. And as leaders of the academic institution, or as educators, we can go into the data and learning analytics to make sure that what we do is right. And just to sum up, so we've got infrastructure. Yeah? If it's readiness at the institutional level, infrastructure, network and internet, infrastructure, the learning platform, software, online content, info culture, where the people are able to function in such a way that they are always ready to teach in the different ways, yeah. And as a facilitator, what do you do? Which one do you choose? Which method do you choose? Which technology do you employ? Yeah. And then we talk about the competencies, professional development, even marketing and business development, and then also future-ready courses. So we talk about programs, we talk about how we deliver micro-credentials, we talk about maybe lifelong learning courses, yeah, and so on. Okay, next. I always believe that we should help our students to learn, and that's our primary role, isn't it, as an educator? Yeah, we have to do our research. We should be giving consultancies and so on, get research grants. But I think what we have been hired to do is to help teach students, and I think our role is to help them learn. Again, just to remind ourselves, constructive alignment, if we have done a good job with table 4, we just need to make sure that when implementing it, we have reached the effective level, yeah, of implementation. I'd like to propose this learning design framework, something that I put together, I think about 1 or 2 months ago. Start with the center. We've got our OBE, that's table 4. So OBE is about achieving the course learning outcomes, providing evidence that the students have indeed achieved the course learning outcomes. And that comes from having a pedagogically oriented environment, the right pedagogies, of course, and for the right learning outcomes. We could adapt models. I gave you, I think, 2 or 3 models, even learning frameworks or, assessment frameworks and so on. Okay, then the modes, of course, and approaches, it could be problem-based learning. For example, IMU uses, part of it is problem-based learning. It could be clinical experience, in the medical field. It could be work-based experience through internship programs or through practicums, yeah, in the other fields. And then we talk about the technology environment. So technology environment, yeah, part of the technology environment, yeah, maybe where we upload our learning resources, where we use, yeah, social media to support the learning and teaching, or to support the learner's needs. And we could be using LMS, for example, yeah, learning platform or portal. But why do we do all this? Yeah. When we do all this, it's for student engagement. It's to provide that learner experience that will achieve the student engagement. We must also think about student motivation, and with all that, then we get student success. Student success is about them completing course by course at the level that we believe they should, and of course, eventually graduating. Okay, I'm almost at the end. I'm also aware of the time. So basically, I like what Skinner says. He is the operant conditioning, yeah, the educational psychologist, yeah, or psychologist, yeah. And then his principles were applied in education and in business, yeah, marketing, and so on. Education is what survives when what has been learned has been forgotten. So we all know what we learned in the undergraduate years, even in our secondary schools. Most of them we've forgotten. But even if we forget, we did learn something. It could be skills, it could be attitude. And that is what matters most, yeah, according to Skinner. And George Siemens is also one of my favorite keynote speakers. I used to be able to listen to him when I attended some of the conferences overseas. He's often called in, yeah, to speak as a keynote. And he's the one, together with Stephen Downes and Dave Cormier, came out with MOOCs, yeah? They were the originators of the idea or the concept behind MOOCs. And he says, we derive our competence from forming connections. He has proposed a connectivist learning theory. And it's gone on for at least, 10, 15 years, yeah, this connectivism. And he believes that because we are now in the network age, we are now doing things online, connecting from one resource to another online on the internet. Our competence comes from forming connections. So connections with the resources, connections with the knowledge that we get here as we go online and so on. And I believe strongly that the connections are important. Yeah, how we make the connections from one thing to another, or how we get connected from one thing or one person to another. Okay, next change. Next change is to be able to cope with next changes is being constantly prepared based on that Omar what you call this matrix, yeah, for factors of success. But what's coming could be, I mean, it's already started. We have AI, we have IoT, blockchain, cloud, big data. Some of this we've already been using. Some of these we have seen very clearly. Some of them maybe we have not really got into it directly. But these are some of the next set of changes as educators And of course, the success factors, I believe, begins with Omar. Okay, let me go on. Okay, basically, that's it. I thought I had one more slide. But anyway, thank you for your attention. And I believe there might be questions, so I'll be happy to answer them. Hasnain, thank you so much.
Yes, Prof. Thanks for a very comprehensive, talk. And the floor is now open for questions. So feel free to post your question in the chat, and Prof will be sharing and highlighting more. Okay, the first question we got from Associate Prof. Dr. Nilesh. Digital transformation has been taking away connections between students. Online PBL is a norm now in all Malaysian universities. A very important value we found previously is face-to-face PBLs, like is empathy and fellow feeling. Will it be lost, or how technology could humanize?
Yeah, actually being online does remove, I call it 2D, yeah. Online is basically 2D experience. Face-to-face is the 3D experience. I believe the face-to-face makes a more complete socialization experience or learning experience. There's no denial that face-to-face is generally better, especially for the young minds, especially for the younger generation who need to be socially connected or personally connected, or because otherwise I think online is good for some of us, especially like meetings. I find that we can be more productive if we have online meetings. I mean, for some online meetings, yeah, because we're able to focus, we're able to pay attention on the screen. It's to me, it's more efficient, it's smoother. But there are times when we do need the face-to-face, and same thing with the learning. That's why the blended learning was good, or was a very nice model. Not many students like it all online. Some students, I think most students, most adults would prefer that blended learning approach, partly face-to-face and sometimes online, because it's just as effective and because it's more convenient. It doesn't take as much time traveling. Sometimes we are located in different parts of the world, but we can follow another person's teaching, somewhere else. I mean, the advantage of the online environment. But yes, the face-to-face element needs to be there some of the time, but sometimes we can't avoid it these days. It has to be online. So what can I say, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think, Prof, you have already answered very nicely, like blended learning approach is the way moving forward.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? If not, then may I ask a question, Prof, like how to convince, when we're talking about digital transformation, how to convince senior management, or like management based on your experience in the senior level?
Yeah, that's the thing, to lead means the leader must be able to understand that we need change. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, the economy has changed. I mean, we talked about taxis before, but now we talked about Grab. We talked about, we don't talk about food delivery before, yeah, not so much, yeah, but now we talk about Food Panda and all that. I mean, things have changed. Previously, hotels were the only option. I mean, even previous to that, if we have relatives, if we have friends, when we go to a certain place, yeah. And after that, it became hotels or motels. And then now it's like Airbnb or some of the other, things. I mean, things have just changed. Even hotel, even Oyo has taken over, how hotels can be better marketed, yeah, through some of the basic changes or standardized changes. Things have changed. And education, the same thing. I mean, maybe we don't change as fast compared to some of these other things. I mean, like online banking, no problem. But now we talk about online learning, can be a problem. So yeah, I mean, basically the world has changed. It will be changing because technologies evolve, and technologies will will actually can benefit education, can benefit educators, sometimes benefit the way we collect the fees, the way we advertise. I see a lot of universities now using social media to advertise. They don't have to spend so much money on billboards, which cost maybe $100,000, or in the newspapers. I'm told it's $25,000, $30,000 to place just one page. And who reads newspapers these days, to justify 25, 30,000? But social media, using SEO. I mean, there's so many things happening. Everyone, even the leader, has to change. Otherwise, it's very tough. Yeah. Even for myself, for example, let's say I'm a dean, and the VC doesn't believe or doesn't think that we need to change, then that's a problem. By the time he realizes it or she realizes it, we are already maybe 5, 10 years or 20 years behind. Yeah. So I don't know what else to say, Hasnain.
Yeah, I mean, we got the answer already. Thanks for sharing your experiences.
Yeah.
One more thing I need to ask is like I can't agree more with your statement that don't use technology or put technology first. Yep. Pedagogy should be the first.
Yes.
So could you highlight more like where technology could be more beneficial? And
okay. All right. My personal experience, because I used to teach master's level courses, by coursework, master's as well as doctoral, I find that these students being more matured, and I'm talking from the ODL experience because that's where I have been most of the time, the last 20 years. We should be able to use, or we should leverage on the forum facility, online forum or online discussion forums. That's why we can get our students to go into, to experience deeper learning. Yeah, I mentioned the word deeper. We can only do so much, for our students. Have them read a certain thing, have them watch a certain video, have them discuss. Let's say if we were in the classroom, we can discuss. But in the forum, I find that even when I had international students who were thousands of miles apart from each other in different time zones, the forum is where we can leverage. And sometimes, the trick is knowing how to set the forum so that everyone will participate or everyone will have something to say. And you must give marks to the forum. So we give 20%, for this postgrad courses. 20%, yes, but still, even the 20% doesn't mean that everybody is participating equally. Some will do more, some will do less. So we give 20%, and then after that, we must have the rubrics for assessing the contribution to the forum, contribution to each other, and of course, in line with the course learning outcomes or objectives, and how to formulate questions so that everybody participates. But the fact that we have this online forum, and then when we want to give marks, the platform enables that, because you can get a quick view who posted what to what question or to which forum and when, and how long their answers are. What were their exact postings? The way to give them marks is not that difficult. But the fact is, sometimes in between our sessions, online sessions, we have forums. They can get into sometimes a page or two of postings, and they could be sharing other resources. They could be sharing their experience. They could be sharing events, to illustrate. So, I mean, to me, for me, because I teach the postgrad courses, forums is what we should leverage on.
And I think just to add on, COI model, which you shared, community of inquiry. So very well explained. We have another question from Hanifa. I think the name very familiar.
Oh yeah,
ex-staff maybe.
Ex-staff, and no, she was my student from the MIDT program at OUM. Yes.
So what could be the most important factor that will encourage student engagement in an online learning? And then she mentioned about student motivation or course design or instructor readiness. So a lot of sub questions also.
All right. Okay,
Please.
Student engagement. Student engagement is something that we need, that needs to happen. especially in an online environment or especially in an ODL environment. I mean, it has to happen in conventional campuses too. But in conventional campuses, I find that because the students who are in, for example, the public universities or universities such as IMU, where the fees are very high, so they cannot afford to fail. Yeah. What you call this? Student engagement is more important, yeah, in ODL and all that, because they are basically isolated. Yeah, they're lonely. Yeah, because they don't have their classmates with them. Yeah, they're far away. They could be in another country, they could be in another town, yeah, from the university. So student engagement is more important there. Now, the importance of student engagement is that they will stay on, that they will be able to cope, yeah, in their own course. They will be able to finish the semester. They will be able to go from semester to semester and eventually graduate. So that's the main thing. So when this question, yeah, what is the most important factor that will encourage student engagement? I think I mentioned earlier just now, there are 4 things, the academic and the, what was it just now? The intrinsic and the extrinsic. So the academic and was it behavior? And then the other one was cognitive and motivation, yeah? Cognitive and what was the other one? Motivation, right? So these are the 4 things that you want to look into to produce that student engagement, or to get whatever you do results in student engagement. Yeah, that's the main thing. And then after that, what's that? Course design. A course design, yeah, you can talk about the ARCS model, apply the ARCS model, course design. Instructor readiness, yeah. Instructor readiness is basically making them understand what student engagement is all about, how to do it, how to achieve it, and the importance of student motivation, and how to apply the ARCS model. That's what it is. Yeah. And if they buy in, then I think they will do it, because they want their students to be able to learn. Yeah. They want to be able to be good educators. Unless, of course, now this is going back 40 years ago, exams, sometimes the exams are tricky questions, because the lecturers say, well, not everybody can get an A or a B. Some has to get C, D, and some has to fail. So that's not about student engagement. That's really different. That's really in contrast or in opposition. But today, I think it's about, everybody should succeed. OBE means everybody has to produce the learning to that level. Even if it's not to that level, partial, then, but it's not about failing. Yeah, it's not about not achieving at all. So OBE is about making sure that all students will achieve the learning outcome. Yeah. So different philosophy. Okay.
Yes, Prof. I mean, we'll like to hear more, but we don't want to hold our participant from lunch. Because it's going to be lunch. Yes. Just I will try to summarize what you have actually talked. Hopefully I will justify, you started with slate board, we used to have a wooden slate kind of thing where we have to use some kind of mud thing, and then we use with bamboo, kind of pen stick. Yeah. So, and then how we could convert now with tablets, and then from didactic to now more on blended learning, and from blended learning we move on to ODL, and then you have shared Umar model or metrics, you said. And quite surprisingly, I noticed we can implement as a change management metrics also. So then you touch a bit on the term teacher to facilitator, and I would love to use facilitators more. Then you touch a bit on constructive alignment, and I can't agree again, more pedagogy first, technology second.
Thank you.
And another statement I like, we no need to use technology, and work with your methodology or pedagogy itself, and you may attain results, And then you touch a bit on a student engagement models, and you share 3-4 models. ARC is one of them, COI. And then I also like your statement when you say joining the dots. That's where I think most of us forget. We try buy expensive platforms, and sadly they run in silos. So if we could able to join the dots, and then we will have seamless learning experiences, or holistic learning experiences, the word you use. And then I also like another framework you shared, well-blended learning environment, and you touch a bit on self-instructed material or instructional material. And then another very important point you touch about content, like video-based content. We can't run away now. Our students and learners, they are prefer to go more on, like you mentioned, YouTube, Netflix, TikTok, and you name it, all they are using video-based content, and how we could change, right? And then another statement I like and picked, our device could be our own lab for content creation.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. That is great. That is great if we really utilize our even smart devices. You just grab your smart device and use cameras or podcasts is record and things like that.
Yes, audio cast, yeah.
Yeah, and then you
That's
touch
right.
a bit about future ready, like how we could prepare students to learn on their own. That's very important point, And then you mentioned about data and learning analytics. So when we are moving on online, and the one good thing I noticed during COVID, we actually done a lot of online things, and the statistics and analytics or data we could attain. So that's what you also highlighted, And the other thing I like is infra and info structure, and then info culture. Sometimes we pay less attention about that. So then I really enjoyed the term table 4, which we are very much familiar. So then you align table 4 with constructive alignment. And then please visit and explore. I really like the framework you have shared, very comprehensive about learning design framework. All the key elements for an online learning experiences design is there. And then you touch a bit at the end about connectivism. Yeah, it's all about nowadays. And you map it to MOOC, and then connection with content, connection with learners, connection with professors or scholars. So that's where we move on. And the last thing you touch a bit, you mentioned next change. I think it's already there, and you have actually explained it. Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe we need to change the title, like AI, Internet of Things, blockchain, big data. And again, you mentioned to use Umar to assess whether how far we are ready for all this. So great. I mean, I enjoyed each and every statement you mentioned for almost 1 hour plus, and I do hope that participants also enjoyed. And feel free to contact Prof. And if you have any questions. And back to our MC,